What are we going to do in this video, Brain?
The same thing we do in every video, Becky. Try and take over the world.
With science!
Hello everybody, my name is Rebecca and I'm a neuroscientist here to talk to you today about all things neuro and science. And in this video, I wanted to answer the question, so what exactly do scientists do? And to give you a proper answer, I thought we'd do something a little bit different, so you're going to come along with me to see what a week looks like in the life of a Cambridge neuroscientist. I kick off day one like a classic Brit with a cup of tea. I'm watching one of my favourite YouTubers at the minute, Rachel Maxey. A bit of context, I'm actually a final year PhD student at the University of Cambridge, specialising in neuroscience, but I've spent the past few months at a government internship, so I'm really excited to be back today. I even came back to some panda presents from my new office mate. How cute are these? Sadly, my plants are not looking as hot, but David Attenborough's still protecting my desk, so that's the important thing. I start my day off by making some new to-do lists, because to-do lists and Gantt charts are basically how I survive. Especially because I'm only actually a couple months off finishing my PhD, so there's no time for distractions. No distractions, not even a tiny green dragon. I'm very focused right now, you can tell. But before I know it, it's time for the first break of the day and the most important choice of the day. Which mug shall I choose for more tea? So I've realised that if you aren't familiar with how PhDs work, then me telling you I'm a final year PhD student will have next to no meaning. So a bit of context. Here in the UK, PhDs usually last 3 to 4 years. And essentially in the sciences, we spend that 3 to 4 years doing science. So I've spent 3 years scanning people's brains and, oh shoot, I've lost a form. Hang on, wait. The wind is too high. Okay, I've spent the last 3 to 4 years doing research, scanning people's brains, doing data analysis, doing research. My job has been a researcher, has been a neuroscientist, and now I'm literally a couple months off my submission deadline. I'm now properly into writing mode. I'm writing up all of that analysis and all of that data collection into my thesis, which is a book with a max of 60,000 words. I will not hit that. That I will hand to fellow experts in the field, and they will read and determine if I've done enough research and enough high quality research to also be deemed an expert in the field, at which point I will become Dr. Rebecca, Dr. Becky. The other thing that I'm doing at the minute is spending a lot of time writing up my research into papers, which instead of going into the thesis side of things, the exam side of things, will go into journals, into research journals, and getting published is another big part of being a researcher. And I'm also writing a lot of applications for fellowships, for grants, to make sure that the next stages of my career are secure. So this week isn't necessarily representative of what science looks like for me in general, but I realized as I was trying to pick a good time to do one of these follow me videos, that what I do changes so much over the course of the year, the month, the PhD. So I thought this would be a fun one to do as come along with me as I'm in the last stages of my PhD, and then hopefully I'll do another one when I'm back into the swings of data collection and data analysis, and you can see how different that looks. But for now, I'm gonna drink my tea. So I then head back inside and spend the rest of the morning doing some odd jobs like practicing for an upcoming talk, which sounds like this.
Prevalence rates vary across... Apathy is highly prevalent across a wide range of conditions, including psychiatric... Apathy is highly prevalent across a wide variety of conditions, including psychiatric conditions such as depression and schizophrenia.
So yeah, if you've ever heard me give a talk or watched one of my videos, now you know what it actually sounds like behind the scenes. It's a lot of restarting. We then have a spot of lunch in the glorious British summer. How dare you? Before I get back to work in the afternoon, working on writing up one of my papers on the neurochemicals responsible for apathy. Okay, so this is the real problem with doing science and academia, especially coming from, I've been doing an internship as a government analyst for the last 3 months. And so I've been in an environment where I've had a line manager and I've been given jobs, and then I do the job within the space of a week, maybe 2, and then I give it a new job and I do that job, and everything's very modular. And suddenly I'm back in the environment where I have a long list as long as my arm, but I have no deadlines, I have no one checking up on me, I meet with my supervisor kind of once a month, and so it's very, very, very self-motivated, and I am struggling. So I have got the first draft of one of the papers that I wanted to do done, so I think I'm going to go have a walk around the garden and maybe a herbal tea, and then come back and see if that clears my mind a little bit. Luckily, we have some really gorgeous gardens at my research unit. It's actually an old converted manor house, and this does the trick, and I managed to get all the writing up that I wanted to get done this afternoon. I then just have time for a quick change before I head out to a formal dinner in Cambridge. This is actually for a summer camp for undergraduate students that I did a couple of online lectures for last month, so I'm looking forward to an evening of just chatting about academia and science and hopefully encouraging them to pursue graduate life themselves. It's a really fun evening of eating good food and having good conversations, but I do spend a lot of time talking about my PhD life, so hopefully you don't get bored of it in this video. By 9 PM I get home and just have time for a call with my awesome parents before I turn in for the night. We're kicking off day 2 strong with another one of my favourite YouTubers, Jill Bearup, and I'm going to be working from home today, so let's get going. I have a meeting at 10 this morning, so I'm going to start off by reading through the paper that I finished writing yesterday and see if I still like it now that I've had a night's sleep. You'll notice that I look like a bit of a lunatic in this clip, talking to absolutely no one, but this is my favourite way to read through my papers because I notice mistakes I just wouldn't otherwise, and yeah, it was still okay. Alright, it is now 11:15, and so I am heading off to a speed networking lunch to talk to some of the undergraduates from yesterday about what graduate life is like and what PhDs are like, and hopefully give them some career advice. So let's go! This event is actually at St. Catherine's College, so I head out into city centre via this really cool clock called the chronophage, which is just at the corner of the Corpus Christi College. It's so awesome. And I've never actually been in St. Catherine's before, so this is just an excuse to have a snoop round one of the other colleges, and I find these really cool exhibits while I'm looking for the restroom, which only happens in Cambridge, I'm sure. But when I eventually do find the dining room, I have a really great lunch talking to the students about how you can go about getting on a PhD, and how much a lot of the time it's just having the confidence to email people and be the first one to ask questions. I then head back to the research unit across the windy fens, and when I get back to the unit I actually realise the bit of writing I did yesterday is the last bit of writing I need to do for my thesis. Lots of editing and polishing, but that's the last first draft, and so I just couldn't resist putting it all together. This is really wild. I've waited 4 years to be able to do this, and I didn't think I'd be so emotional putting it together for the first time. But especially because it's like been so long since I read through some of this stuff because I've been on the internship, and looking back through and seeing all the figures that I've made and all the work that I've done, feels really good. It feels really good. Yeah. When I get back home in the evening, it's time for a little bit of editing with my super professional audio setup. Hello everybody, my name's Rebecca and I'm a neuroscientist here to talk to you today about... I can never point. This is genuinely the biggest problem I have, is trying to point straight at the camera. My fingers always end up doing this. So if you have any tips of how to successfully point at a camera, put them in the comments below. And that's it for day 2 because I have to get up super early tomorrow morning to do my talk to Australia. So I'm gonna get an early night and see you in the morning. Bright and early. Oh God. I kick off day 3 as promised, bright and early in the morning at like 5 AM. Thank you to Shakespeare for getting me through this one. And then I get set up and awake enough to do my talk. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning. And I am up this early because I'm doing a presentation to a lovely lab in Australia, and they very kindly moved their lab meeting back to 3 o'clock their time so that I can do it at 6 AM this time. They even offered for me to like record it ahead of time so I didn't have to get up so early, but I feel like having people there while I'm doing the talk is much better and I prefer doing that, so I'm very happy to get up. So hopefully it goes well. One of the things I love about academia is how international it is, but it does mean that you have to deal with time zones, so wish me luck. Footage of me doing the presentation. I use my hands a lot when I talk.
That was really tough. But I always really enjoy it when I get to talk to people who haven't heard my work at all, because I always worry that when I'm presenting to people who've heard my work that I'm in a little bit of a bubble, and so I'm not going to get asked, you know, the really difficult or gnarly questions because everyone's already vaguely familiar with what I do and they know me. Whereas in that environment where nobody knows my work or people are very unaware of my work, it means I get asked all of the really cool, like nitty gritty, theoretical, philosophical questions that call into doubt my entire PhD in the nicest possible way. So that was really fun. It was a really good mental exercise, especially as I'm coming to the end of the PhD now, to have to like properly like defend it and go through every bit of theory and philosophy and science that I can muster to make sure that people think my PhD is kind of worthwhile, and try not to jabber on. Oh my gosh, I hope I didn't jabber on about philosophy in front of this really cool scientist who I really like. Anyway, hopefully it was okay. I'm gonna go have a shower now and edit my video and not overthink it. This is me, not overthinking it. Definitely overthinking it.
Here's more footage of me definitely not overthinking it, but at least now I'm doing it while being productive in video editing. I then just have one more meeting to round out the morning. Meeting done, so I was going to try and be strong and go straight into the research unit and do some work uploading my code online so that it's all like publicly available, but I'm exhausted, so I think I'm going to have a nap and then I'm going to go into the research unit and upload all my code. Oh, I'm so tired. The nap did absolute wonders, and I then head into the research unit via my favourite little deli and buy a lot of cheese, and then I have just about an hour to do some code cleaning before a meeting with my supervisor. You're a proper scientist. There he is. Proper scientist.
Hello, I'm James. Very good to see you all. Enjoy the video.
Okay, meeting done. I have come away from that meeting as I come away from all of my meetings with my supervisor, which is head buzzing, to-do list full. So I'm going to spend the rest of the day just sorting out all the extra stuff that I need to do and putting it into when I need to do it and trying to prioritize stuff. And hopefully it'll all be fine. It will all be fine. It will all be fine. Reader, it was all fine. I managed to get everything down into a to-do list and even put it in the days of the week I wanted to do it, and felt a lot better afterwards. But it is really easy to get overwhelmed in this line of work. As I mentioned, because I don't really have a manager giving me tasks, it's very self-motivated, and so it's often really easy for me to feel a little bit burnt out. But by the time I've got it all down on paper, I feel much better walking home the glorious sunshine. I then finish off the day by baking some gingerbread brains for our lab meeting / leaving party tomorrow morning, and my only secret for gingerbread is adding like 10 times the amount of ginger suggested. I think half a tub goes in each one. The only sin a gingerbread can make is not being gingery enough, right? And I use these really cute cookie cutters. And with my gingerbread brains done, that is a wrap on day 3. Day 4 is a bit of a special one, so I head out with gingerbread brains in tow for a lab meeting / leaving party at our hospital site, which is our other research unit. It's also a special day because my grandma's actually visiting, so I give her a tour of both the research units and a good old deli lunch. I've just waved off my grandma and my dad after giving them a tour of the unit, so I thought I'd show you some of the highlights. One of them is these pictures that I absolutely love. So these are old pictures from our unit. It actually started at about the 1940s, and you can just see some of the old kit, like the old eye tracking equipment, and even some of the drunk driving experiments over here, which I think are just absolutely brilliant. They're so charming.
This is the MEG prep room, so where we get people ready to go into the MEG scanner. And the MEG scanner works by measuring magnetic activity that's produced when clusters of neurons fire together. But it's not the only thing in your body that produces magnetic fields. So every time you blink and your muscles move, your heart beats, we also get magnetic activity, which we can detect with the scanner. And so we try and screen this out by measuring your eye blinks using these electrodes. And sometimes we'll also measure your heart rate like an ECG. And then you can also see the EEG caps in the background here, which we can use as well as or instead of the MEG. And the advantage of these are that they move with you, right? Because they're attached to your head rather than the scanner, which is stationary. And so they're really helpful in things like sleep research and when we're testing children as well, because then they can run all over the place. And theoretically, it's much better than if they try and do that in the MEG, which just wouldn't work. And then you can come out from our MEG facility into our lovely garden.
And this is really great, especially when we're testing with individuals who have dementia, because they'll often come with their caregivers, which can be their children, their spouse. And that means that when our patients are in the MEG machine being scanned, their caregivers can come and have a cup of tea out in this lovely garden if they so choose, which I think is a much nicer place to wait, especially on a day like today. Less so when it's raining.
The other thing you'll find in our unit garden is this MRI machine, which is disguised as a pool house so that it's in keeping with the grounds and the kind of manor house style. But perhaps the best part, or my favourite part, is this little birdhouse out front, which is actually a bird MRI scanner. How fantastic is that? By this point, I have an hour or two of the day left, which I spend going over yet another research paper, getting it polished and getting it sent off to my supervisor so that I can cross that off my to-do list. And then it's time to head out because I'm meeting my grandma, my dad, my boyfriend, and my boyfriend's family at a local beer festival. We have a really lovely evening just chatting and drinking some cider in my case, and it's a really nice way to unwind after a long week.
We're back from the beer festival, it's time for bed, and tomorrow I'm going to work from home and try and have a bit of a breather because this week has been a little bit crazy. See you in the morning.
And unbelievably quickly, as it always does, Friday rolls around and I kick off watching another one of my favourite YouTubers, the amazing Ginny D.
So this is going to be the first quiet day of the week, and so I'm going to work from home. I've got my blanket tucked around me, and I'm going to be working through some paper corrections. So the way that publishing papers works in academia is that once you have a paper and you have all your research, you submit it to journals. And the journals can what we call desk reject your paper, which basically means they think it's not within the scope of the stuff they publish. So as like an extreme example, if you sent a paper on neuroscience to a computer science journal, then they're going to go, yeah, this isn't really the kind of stuff we do. And then out of scope can also mean that they don't think your work is kind of original or novel or prestigious enough to go in their journal. So if you pick like a really heavy hitting journal, like Nature's one of the most prestigious journals out there, they might just look at your work and go, no, this isn't like game changing research. It can still be good research, but it's not a paradigm shift, so they're not going to publish it. Once someone hasn't desk rejected, once they've desk accepted your paper, it then goes out to reviewers, which are other scientists. Like, people don't get paid to do these reviews. They're like just other scientists. It's like part of our scientific citizenship, if you like, that we review other people's work and make sure that good quality work gets out there. And if the reviewers think that it's good, then they'll tell the editor, and then the editor will be like, great, cool, we'd like to publish your work. So I'm at that stage with one of my papers, which is super exciting. Especially because it's an opinion piece, so it's not research I've done, but kind of a framework that we want to lay out for people. But just because they've accepted it doesn't mean that they're totally happy with it. So I've got quite a long list of like suggestions and corrections and clarifications. So I'm going to start working through that today. And send it over to my supervisor so we can start making the changes that need to happen. And we can also push back on stuff, like if there's stuff that we read and we're like, actually, I think we've already said that, or I think we've given enough space to that, or we don't want to include that, that's not relevant. We can also push back. We don't have to, just blanket accept all their comments. But either way, I need to start working through them and doing a bit of reformatting based on some guidelines and stuff. So I think that's going to take me probably most of the morning and some of the afternoon. So I'm going to lock in and get that done.
It did in fact take me all of the morning and most of the afternoon. I have no idea what I was reading here, but I just love how unbelievably confused I look.
So just as like an example of the kind of thing that I'm doing, wait, that was poorly timed. Just as an example of the kind of edits that I'm doing. So the one that I'm working on right now is saying, please could you polish the highlights section, because it's going to be really prominent, and at the minute it's like fine, but it's a bit meh. We really want it to be like stand out. So they've given like really specific advice on change the wording here to make sure that this sounds better, and they're not going to mind if we don't change that specific wording in the way that they'd said, but I want to make sure that that highlight section really stands out. They're trying to get this paper the best that they can, right? They're on our team at this point. They've agreed to accept it. They're on our side of like trying to make it the best that it can be. So that's one of the things that I'm going to be working on at the minute.
I managed to get that finished by late afternoon and finish off the day by submitting yet another paper.
The most frustrating part of academia is submitting papers, not like writing them, not doing the research, just the final bit where you have to get past 5,000 tick boxes that you didn't know existed, and they're all slightly different for different journals just to really drive you insane. And then I did it all, and then I had an error and none of it saved. So sad. Okay, it is 4:20. If I can get this paper gone today, I'm going to call it a day. We're going to call that a week. And with that, we are going to call it a day and call it a week. I hope you've enjoyed coming along with me and seeing a bit of what it's like to be a neuroscientist at Cambridge and a PhD student. If you have any questions about stuff that I haven't covered in this video, please do leave a comment down below. And hopefully I'll do more of these in future to show slightly different sides of being a neuroscientist, doing more data collection, actually getting to work with the brain scanners versus doing analysis. But that's probably going to have to wait until after I've submitted my PhD thesis. So that's all the time that we have for today, but if you have any questions about the content covered in this video or suggestions for future videos, please do leave a comment down below. Other than that, it's time for me to head back to the lab, or actually not because it's the weekend, and plan what I'm going to do for the next video, but don't hesitate to reach out and let me know of any progress that you make in trying to take over the world with science!